Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. We got folks starting to come in. Oh man, this is going to be an awesome one today. Before we go any further, I just want to make sure, one, that you can hear me, because it's kind of funny if you see me moving and you can't hear me. So by knowing that, if you don't mind putting in the chat where you're from, put it in the chat where you're from. So that way, as you go throughout the day, you may have some questions and you want to ask it. So we use the chat because our investors today, man, they are so busy. They got a lot of content that they want to share with us today. And we want to make sure we can hear them. So if you don't mind staying muted, that would be really awesome. And you can put your questions in the chat. We'll get to it. And it's going to be a really awesome one. So thank you for that. So I'm going to look at the chat and see where people are coming from. Like I'm looking at, we got people from New York, by the way, of Brooklyn, New York. So welcome, welcome. Alabama is here. Okay. We got some from Delaware is here. We got Charlotte, North Carolina is here. ATL's in the house. Atlanta's here. We got Northern Virginia, Cincinnati, Ohio. Good morning. Hey, the whole New York team, by the way, from Hawaii. Woo, you got up early this morning. Man,
Woo!
congratulations. But I'm gonna tell you what, make sure you have your pen and paper because, oh my goodness, the things that you're going to hear today is going to, matter of fact, make sure you're sitting down because the information it's going to share with you, man, it's going to blow your mind because it's all about the mindset, real estate investing. We're going to talk about seller financing. Oh my goodness, I am so excited. Let me just calm down. Let me get back and see where people are coming from. Oh, Cincinnati, Connecticut. Hey, Waldorf, Maryland, welcome. I'm actually in Virginia. So this is really awesome because we have investors all over the United States, and we all come here to talk about and see what a current investor is doing right now. Not something they used to do. We're talking about what they're doing right now. So can you buy houses in 2024? I mean, we're talking about like December. Can we do real estate at this time of the year? The answer is yes. Matter of fact, we got folks from Philly showing up today. Utah's in the house. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, Southern Delaware. We got some more folks coming in from Nashville, Tennessee. Hey, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're at the top of the hour. First of all, I want to thank Scott Buckles for putting this together. If it wasn't for him, man, I mean, COVID got a lot of people, but you tell you what, he had this vision before COVID, and I'm so glad he had this vision to be able to allow us to be able to come together as a community to highlight and investors who's doing things today. And you get to ask questions. So one thing we just ask, please, if you have another side business and you like to solicit, don't use that today because we want to hear from our investors. We want to make sure we get to those questions because this is a really good one. Hey Scott, I want to turn it over to you so I can go ahead and get everything together because I'm so excited. As you can tell, I'm just ready to hear. Not
I
only that,
know
I
you
got
are.
I got my pen and paper too, so I'm just ready to hear these
Oh
deals that
my
they got
gosh.
going on.
That's great. Let me turn my, can you hear me now, Keith?
Yes, I can hear you.
I had to turn my computer speaker off. Well, good morning, Keith. Yes, I'm not sure how many cups of coffee you've had this morning, but definitely love your energy and maybe the folks from Hawaii. Did you say Hawaii? Someone's on?
Yes.
Well, I'm thinking from East Coast, that's 6 hours behind us. So that would be like at 5 a.m. I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, they're here because of Ryan Laura Black. I know that for a fact. So, well, guys, good morning. Good morning. I am Scott Buckholz. I am your host with Keith Jones, our other host. And we have, like he said, an incredible property tour lined out for you guys. We've been doing these property tours for 4.5 years now. So we started doing these every Saturday before COVID even kicked in, like he said. And of course, it really picked up steam during COVID. And we just kept it going since then. And one of the cool things that I love about these property tours, like perfect example today, Ryan and Laura Black are like, they've been in this community. They're incredible community builders. They give back, they share. They're great people. I mean, I've known them for a while now, and we've had them out. It was a couple years ago since we've had them out. But what we like to do is we move around the country and we share some of our investors' stories and what they're doing and their different strategies. And so this week we're going to be talking about seller financing and all the cool things about it. And I was talking to Ryan when we kicked this off. A lot of people have heard that term, but they get confused and they don't think that they can actually execute the strategy. So Ryan and Laura are going to talk a little bit about that today. We are recording this. So Keith, again, it's December 21st. Can you guys believe Christmas is like what, 4 days? Oh my gosh. Does anybody got any Amazon packages around on by their feet or anything? Yeah, Keith says he's got a bunch of them. So but guys, let's go ahead and turn it over. Ryan and Laura, we're so glad that you guys are out today. I can't tell you how excited I've been leading up to this when Laura, you said you would do it. And so we've got a lot of folks on today who may have never met you guys, or they don't know who you are, or your stories. And I think it's always cool to start off just sharing a little bit about yourselves. Like, who were you before you became a real estate investor? And then, like, how did you get exposed? Like, did you go to a property tour like this, or did you read a book? A family member was doing it. And then why our community? I mean, I know why I joined our community, but let's share with everybody about you guys. So Laura, Ryan, I don't know who wants to go first. You guys are on mute. Go ahead and take it all over.
Muy buenos días, encantada de estar acá con todos ustedes. Mi nombre es Laura Black y mi esposito es Ryan. Nosotros...
Why are you speaking Spanish?
Oh, sorry, I wasn't speaking.
Like there's going to be a lot of people that are extremely confused right now. Like, are there subtitles for this?
I understood the intro or her first thing she said, and then I was like, okay, let me turn my bilingual thing on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we're bilingual. Sorry, I'm from Colombia originally, and that's why my nature is just speaking Spanish. Good thing I have my husband.
Yeah. I just thought you were being friendly. Good morning, I'm Ryan. Nice to meet you all. Good to have you guys on the call this morning.
Yeah, well, we want to share a little bit about our story. As Scott was talking about, we started our journey with real estate about 9 years ago. Before that, we didn't have any clue about real estate. When I was 10 years old, I was dreaming about having houses that would pay for my living. That was it. I know about rentals, but I didn't have a clue how do they work or anything. About 9 years ago, prior that, my husband he had a video production company, and that through that company, that's actually how he got to be so blessed and met Bob Snyder, who is an amazing man from God. I will say that he was the one who kind of started introducing us to this world and talking about it, and through him we got to know that it was important that we get educated and we really get to know how to do the things right from the beginning instead of making it with mistakes and mistakes and mistakes and learning that way, So that's how we started introduced. We came to a house tour like this one, but it was a live house tour. He was from El Salvador, actually, and his English was really, really poor, but still he was so brave in giving a presentation for everybody in there. And one of the things that caught our attention that was that he was going to make
35,000
in the house that he bought for $7,000 because he was able to help somebody that was in problems, that was going to lose his house, and he was able to help that person. And then after that, he was going to make almost $40,000 in only 3 months. And that was what it blew our mind. And we were thinking, like, wow, if Frankie can do this with his little English and all the work and everything, like, we can do it. Everybody can do it. And that's what we put in our minds. Everybody can do it. We can do this. Everybody can do it. We just need to learn how to do it. So that was, we started learning. It took us about 2 months, really focus, study, learning from the best people. And after that, we found our first deal. About 2 months later, we first found our first deal, and we were able to get that first deal in the same situation as Franklin did, in a subject to helping somebody that was going to lose their house.
Which is
And
a type of seller financing. So actually Frankie and his deal and our first deal were both also seller finance
finance
deals.
deal. That's why we love this. It's an amazing strategy, and that's what we're gonna share a little bit today. We have been doing different strategies. We have done a transaction as fix and flip, which is buying, fixing, and selling really fast within a short time of period and making a bunch of money. It could be, there is no limit on how much money you can make. Our top has been $160,000 in one flip that we did. And we also have made $5,000 in one deal that we did. So there is no limit. It's dependent of the house and the numbers of each house. We have done, right now we're more focused in rentals and seller finance. And also my husband set on a company for lending. We specialize more in Utah, lending for fix and flips in Utah. So that's where we're focusing right now. And it's been wonderful, wonderful. Also, we have a deal right now that is a fix and flip deal. So we're still doing fix and flips, even though we're getting out of the country soon. And thanks to all this world of real estate investing, we've been able to really travel the world. We feel free from our time and money because we really have, we've been visiting 15 countries already. Some with us and with our kids. They've been in 5 different countries, which is really good for little kids. We live half of the year in the country that we wanted, which is my country, Colombia, and then we live 5 years, half of the year in Utah. And all this has been possible because of doing 100% focus in real estate. And also helping other people to learn about real estate. So we love it. We love what we do. This has changed, transformed our life from being broke and not having any credit, not having money. That was our story before, to really be free in time. And that's the most valuable one. It's the time that we have to enjoy what we have created. So
Yeah, because having a lot of money does you no good if you don't have the freedom with your time to actually live life.
yeah.
I know I've got friends who are attorneys and doctors, they make great income. They make tons of money, but their lives are just not, they live kind of as a slave to their, to their practice or to their job. So for us, finding both was really important, and real estate investing has been the best vehicle, the best financial vehicle for us to be able to accomplish that. Not only to create the financial wherewithal, but also they have the flexibility and the independence time-wise to be able to actually live the life we want. So we're super grateful.
Yeah.
It's been a fun journey.
And another big thing that we have learned is the financial strategies, because without it, it doesn't matter how much money you make, they can really go away fast, even by paying taxes to the government, right? 30-40% of your income going to the government, no way. So that's why it is important that we actually learn how to be financially smart, how to take care of our money, how to keep most of our money instead of going away in taxes and in interest and all these things. So we also learn how to pay our houses and how to pay our debt really, really fast with a strategy that has been amazing, that it works. It's not magic, but it's mathematics, and it works really good. So that's something that we also learn and have been implemented over the years. So we can keep our money instead of giving it to the banks or giving it to the government. That's
Love it. Love it, guys. So, there's so much that I took away from your intros there. But, one of the big things is that when you first found real estate investing and you first decided to make something happen with it, you guys didn't have any background. You didn't have any knowledge with that, correct? And
No.
you guys had to have like a mind shift change. Your mindset had to shift a little bit. And I think for a lot of people, that's true with whatever they do, whatever business they're in, whatever is, they have to get their mindset lined correctly. And so how many years ago was that you started with real estate then? Has that been 9, you said?
9 years. 9 years.
9 years. And you guys have done all kinds of strategies and you're really focused on seller financing. And one of the things that you mentioned, Bob Snyder, which I love him just like you guys love him, and he talks about when there's a deal, to form a deal, to come to a deal, it's got to be a win-win situation. And you talked about seller financing, or like I think you mentioned his name was Frankie. That's how you first is like he was helping somebody out of a bad deal, right? He was, and you get to do that with seller financing a lot.
Yes.
And Ryan and I were talking before we started. So many people don't even understand what that is, or they're like, their mindset is, I'll never be able to do that. I don't know how to go about that. It sounds illegal to me, or whatever it might be. How did you guys learn about seller financing and that strategy? Besides seeing Frankie do it, how did you actually learn about it?
Yeah.
Well, it's been with the education, Scott, that we have. And as I said before, when we met Bob Snyder, he's the one that introduced us, and he said we really something that we do, and he has with the big communities around the country. He says something that we do is educate yourself, because we don't know what we don't know, and part of the mindset shifting is getting the knowledge. Is part of it, because if we don't have the knowledge, how are we going to know, right? It's like everything, like how you learn to read and how you learn to walk and run and everything. You have to have a knowledge of how to do it. So if you want to become an expert in whatever area, whether it's doctor and engineer, whatever area, you have to study. So for us it was a key for us. Like we really need to learn this in the correct way. So that's how we say, no, we have to educate ourselves. So we got the education. It's an amazing education. And we, as I say, we study. We focused the first year, not TV. It really is, Scott. It was not TV for us. We study every day for about 3 hours after we put the kids in bed. We have 3 little kids at the time. They're teenagers. Well, 2 of them are teenagers now, but they were little. And that was, I will say that was the mindset that we put into this, is like knowing that we didn't know anything and that we needed to learn, and we want to learn. We were hungry. How to do this? We want to do it. We know real estate is amazing, but how can we do it? So in that way, we just did it. We just started studying, learning from the best people, the experts in the area that they know how to do it, and then we learn from them and just start practicing after a while.
We were already working hard at the time on what we were doing with the company that we had with the video production and all that, but we weren't getting the results that we wanted. And so we had the realization, well, we need to do something different. We're willing to work hard, we're willing to sacrifice, we're willing to hustle, but obviously this is not the channel that's going to get us where we want to go. So real estate was that answer, and it's worked out well.
Yeah, I loved how you shared the different countries, Laura. You've traveled around and all that time freedom you've been able to, and you've got three children. It's hard to imagine you guys have teenagers now. That's just, I'm sure you look at each other and say the same thing. Like, we actually have teenagers. And then before you know it, they're going to be driving, right?
Well, Scott, Scott, but you know what's the cool thing about this, about their story, is that they talked about working hard. They talked about people, there's people who make money, right? But you just also talked about they had young kids when they was doing this. So there's a lot of things that people talk about, like, oh, I can't, or maybe I should, and they throw all these things. But this very beginning was very powerful about the mindset. And I just wanted to thank y'all for this sharing that, because this is where we get to the time of the year where a lot of people kind of reminisce and say, I wish I would have done something back in January. I wish I would have done something back in February. Here we are in December, and we're still talking about the mindset. You can make the change now and then learn how to start doing it. And just to seeing the pictures and hear about your kids, I'm just like, thank you for you stepping out and doing that, because that was probably scary, right? But y'all pushed through that. And from what I'm hearing, you learned the knowledge to the community that was helping y'all kind of push you along, that kind of nudged you in the way that you wanted to go. And I know, like myself, I'm like really eager, because you're going to talk about seller financing and just like that's another conversation piece that people like, Scott was saying earlier. It's like, how do you do that? And then what's the results of that? And so I'm just so excited. I just wanted to say thank you for just pointing that out right at the very beginning.
Absolutely. And thank you, Keith. One thing I want to mention to your comment is, um, what makes it even harder is when you're getting started, when you have family members who tell you, you're crazy.
Mhm.
You already have a
Oh yeah.
successful business, that you've been doing for a decade. Why would you why would you get rid of that business and go into a completely different industry that you know nothing about? Yeah,
Mhm.
real estate's cool, but what are you doing? You're crazy. So the opposition, when a lot of people who should be supporting you don't believe in you and are telling you you're crazy, of course, then a few years later, it's, oh, we always knew you could do it. Yeah, we were behind you the whole time. Yeah, right.
Oh, I
That's not
love
how I
it.
remember it. Yeah. But it's all about looking at, okay, who is where I want to be and how can I copy and paste what they have done to get there? And that's simply what we did and who we followed. So
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. And you guys, I know we're going to go ahead and start getting into these deals, talking about the seller financing, sharing some of the stuff you guys are doing. But
yeah,
I also want to thank you guys for helping build our community and bringing and sharing your wisdom and your journey with so many other people. And you guys have really done an amazing job of really helping people start their journeys to become who they want to be. And so thank you guys for doing that.
No, thank you,
absolutely.
Scott. We really couldn't do it without the community. This has been a team success,
Yeah.
and that's what we time. Teamwork makes the dream work. We couldn't do it without everybody else around us, and that's why we love to give because we have received so much from so many people, and we believe that when we give, we receive. We continue receiving.
Mm.
We believe that when we give, everybody gets everybody gets success.
Yeah.
Really, it's not only us. It's been so many people being successful, and that's the team. This is a teamwork. Real estate, you cannot do it by yourself.
Team sport.
It's a
Yeah.
team sport, and it's amazing, and we love it so much. So we have been able to get a lot of success with people that had been for many years prior us, and also with people that have been brand new in our community, because we have been able to team up with those some of the new people and some of the antique antique
Mhm.
no they're bad
The OG
the OG
investors.
investors
Yeah.
exactly. So it's been amazing. We love it, and that's the mindset that we should all have
Yeah.
is teamwork is the best.
Well, I know you guys have like three different things you're going to kind of show us. And so, Ryan, if you want to
Yeah.
start leading us down that path, because I know everybody's excited, like Keith mentioned earlier, to hear more about seller finance and how you guys are actually executing this strategy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So before I dive into the details on the first deal, I'm going to give a 30-second overview of what is seller financing and why on earth would anyone ever want to do it?
Mhm.
Because when people hear seller financing, they think, well, that sounds kind of crazy. But once you understand the benefits, then you'll know why it's important or why it's such a valuable tool. So typically, when a property is purchased or sold, the seller, right, or the buyer who buys the property, they either bring cash or they have some type of bank financing that pays off any existing debt that the seller currently has on the property. Even if there's no current debt on the property from the seller, maybe the seller owns the property outright, the buyer brings the financing and pays in whole the amount owed to the seller, and the transaction is completed. Seller financing or owner will carry, or there's a lot of different ways of of naming it, is where the seller, although they sell the property at a specific point in time, they don't receive all of the money from that sale up front. They receive a part of it, and then the remaining amount they receive over time in payments.
Monthly payment.
Exactly, in monthly payments. And then, depending on the structure of the deal, sometimes there will be what's called a balloon. And so, a balloon simply means that at a future point in time, it could be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years in the future, the remaining balance due needs to be paid and satisfied in a lump sum. And so it's balloon payments are quite common in the commercial real estate world, not as common in residential. Typically, when you have somebody who buys a house with a mortgage, they'll have a 30-year mortgage that is amortized over 30 years. So if they actually kept the house for 30 years, after 30 years, their balance will be zero. Whereas with balloon payments, your balance owed when you get to the end of the loan is still a considerable amount. And then you either have to refinance the property or sell it in order to pay off the balloon that you owe on the loan and continue moving forward. So that's, in a nutshell, what seller financing is. Now, there are a lot of different ways to structure it, a lot of different legal ways. There's pros and cons. We're not going to get into all that today because that's more of the technical side. But what we do want to make clear is with seller financing, why would you ever want to do it? And there's pros and cons for the buyer and for the seller. For the buyer, obviously, if we can purchase a property using seller financing, we can typically close a lot faster, and we don't have to worry about bank qualification because maybe you're in a position because of income or credit or something else where a traditional bank qualification is simply not an option for you. Well, owner financing, seller financing can be great because you don't have to qualify with a bank. Also, did you want to say
the
something?
benefit of it is that instead of you throwing your money away in a rental, which doesn't do any good for you, you just literally throwing your money away paying rent. Instead of doing that, you can pay in your own house with overtime, it's gonna earn equity. So you can sell it in 5 years or whatever amount of time you want to, and be able to get back all the equity that you have earned over time. So that's when it pays you really good. That's why it's better to buy a house and seller finance than actually rent a house because it's such a benefit.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. In the application where you don't have a primary residence and you're renting,
Yeah,
it would
yeah.
behoove you to use seller financing if you could find it.
So it's a benefit, it's a double benefit. And that's something that we believe is in create win-win situations for everybody involved in the transactions. So even the people that are buying it or that are selling it. And that's what we're going to show right now is the benefit of the two worlds when we buy a house in seller finance and when we sell a house in seller finance.
And when you're purchasing a property on seller financing, either for personal use, as she mentioned, or for investment purposes, being able to, go past that limit of only being able to have 10 mortgages under your name is a limitation. And also for the seller, they need to be able to, obviously, they want to receive the income that they're making from the sale. But if they don't have anything that they're going to be using the money for, and they're going to receive this huge windfall of cash that they're going to have to pay a ton of taxes on, and then the money's just going to sit in a bank account, why not allow them to make more money on their money over time by receiving it in payments? So there's definitely situations and circumstances where it's very, very beneficial for the buyer and the seller, and it boils down to education. Once you understand all the intricacies, then you can know when it's appropriate and when you can even take a deal that maybe isn't really the best deal in the world and make it a killer deal by using the seller financing strategy. So, anyways, let's hop into the first one. Do you want to cover this one or do you want to?
Actually, this house we bought it with zero out of pocket of us. We got it with a commercial loan, and then the money that we put for the down payment in this house was coming for another house that we have and that we own, and we were living in that one, that it was paid off thanks to the strategy that we did that I told you about. It's a banking strategy, and we paid the house really fast. Only in about 6 months we were able to pay the house because we did some flips and because we got some really good that was a house that we flipped, and that when we went to live in it, we had a lot of equity. So we were able to get a home equity line of credit, which is a HELOC. Is one of the tools that we use to be able to pay your house really fast. So we got a HELOC in that one, and we had paid the HELOC almost in full, and that HELOC was free. We have $245,000
Mm.
from the bank that it was just available to us. So thanks to that, we're able to get part of that money and put it into buying into this Ogden sixplex that we have in the pictures. It's actually is a two building, but it's a sixplex, but it's in the same lot. That's why it's considered a sixplex. So it's a two apartment in one building and four apartments in the other building.
And this is, this building is in a rough area. And so we were kind of getting into long-term rentals. And as my wife said, we were able to get into it with no money out of pocket. We did do a commercial fix and flip on it, which is different than residential. It's a great strategy. We were able to get the property turned around, get it performing. And then we had it for several years as it was almost 3 years that we had the property as just a rental. So we had 6 tenants in there. We were able to get our cash flow. We were cash flowing almost $2,000 a month was our net cash flow after all expenses and the debt service and everything. But it got to the point where we said, I'm not sure we really want to own a property in this neighborhood
anymore. We did have some adventures, and
lots of adventures.
They were a dead cat, and somebody had died in there. They were bed bugs all the time. So we have a lot of issues with this one.
Drug contamination.
So
we got stories.
Part of the investor ID is realizing, right? Like, what things do you like? What type of people do you want to work with? Do you like more rentals that are apartments or houses? Things like that. So we start realizing we don't like this type of apartments. They are more of the in the, how is it called? They say more lower income areas. So it had a lot of problems and issues. That's why we're like, okay, let's get out of this. And we wanted to sell it. So we did the math, and that's one of the things that as a real estate investors, educated investors, we do different strategies, and we analyze in different ways. Like, should we sell it traditionally, or should we sell it in seller finance? How can we make more money? And according also with our time, right? In that time, do we need the big chunk of money in the moment, or we will be okay by just have some money up front and then over time? So we did the math, and we realized that it's so much better doing in seller finance instead of selling traditionally. And this is why. This is the number. So we purchased these apartments in $315,000. $315,000. We put $82,000 from our money. That, remember, is not our money; it was the bank's money as well. And then we sell the house, the apartments. After 3 years, when we were going to sell it, we sell it in $430,000. You don't need to know numbers in English to do this. I'm just kidding.
You don't need to be able to say numbers to make a bunch of money in real estate. Isn't that amazing?
Just speak Spanish.
Yeah. So with the one thing that's really interesting with this is, since we purchased the commercial building, as my wife said, we didn't use any money out of pocket between the down payment and the financing. We had a commercial mortgage on the property. And when we sold it with seller financing, we were able to leverage the existing commercial loan, and we used the bank. So we seller financed it when we sold it, but we didn't use our money to finance it. So we're using the bank's money to finance the sale to another person. And
we'll keep our mortgage in place.
Exactly. So we were, we're making a spread between obviously the buy and the sell because we did the commercial flip. We're making a spread on the delta on the interest rate because we were being charged one interest rate, and then we were charging a higher interest rate to the buyer. And so we're taking the spread on that between those two rates. Also, if you understand how amortized debt work, this is one of the really powerful things. Our amortization tables were different. And so our payment on our commercial loan was amortized over 25 years. And by the time we sold the property, we were at about payment 30 or 31 in our amortization schedule. So that meant that since we were 30 months in, a much higher percentage of our monthly payment on our loan was going towards principal versus interest. Whereas our buyer, who their loan, I believe we amortized it for 30 years. On this one, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was a longer term, which means in general, there's going to be much more going towards interest. And while we were on payment 30 or 31, they were on payment 1, which gives us a spread between the difference between the two amortization timelines. And so it was,
Making more money.
yeah. So we're getting some money here, some money there, and it was great. One of the other reasons we decided we wanted to sell this was because we wanted to go and redeploy some of that capital into another project. And so we were able to do that by doing the seller financing. So what we did is we sold it for 430. We got 325,000 as the note that we carried forward. Once again, that we weren't carrying forward our own money. It was the bank's money that we carried. We were kind enough to carry that forward on their behalf. We received a down payment of $110,000 on from the buyer.
So in this case, the buyer is leverage or credit, right? We still have
our business credit because it was a commercial. And so we received, when we sold it, the down payment of 110,000. So he had plenty of skin in the game. And we've kind of actually been hoping the whole time, man, if he defaults, we can take the property back. But of course, he never defaulted. He's been making his payments always on time. We've been receiving $600 a month for the last 5 years in cash flow on that. And that's because his payment is larger than ours. It goes into a third-party escrow service. And then that third-party escrow service then pays our underlying mortgage. And then the excess between his payment and our payment is sent to us. So we have been getting an extra $600 a month with no responsibility on the property whatsoever.
I want to emphasize in here that down payment, the 110,000 that he pay us, we're able to use the money to build a house that we wanted to build. It was a beautiful house. Right now we have the house for rent and we're making $3,000 in cash flow in that one. But that was the house, we start building it with this money. So we bought a house, fix it, use the seller finance in the house, the home equity line of credit, to buy the apartments. And then with the money of the apartments, we're able to buy another beautiful house for us. So everything is been without our money.
Yeah.
It's using the bank's money 100%. And then the $600 cash flow, how amazing is to have that with zero trouble of deals with rentals or anything. Everything he has dealt with that, right?
Yep.
We are not dealing with any problems with rentals or anything, and we're still making $600 a month.
Well, and this property, we forgot to mention, this property was built in the 1880s, I believe, 1880s, 1890s. So it's, 130-year-old property. It is an old building. So it had some problems because of its age. The balloon payment, as I mentioned before, right? The note, we had a 5-year balloon on this. And so the balloon is actually due next month. And so we're going to have a late Christmas gift of $115,000 that's going to come in here in about 3 weeks.
Thank
we're
you,
gonna,
Keith.
yeah.
I'm looking at the comments, Ryan Lauren. They like, nice work. That's awesome, and how y'all kind of explain it. And I really like how we talked about the numbers. You talked about the deals, but what I also heard that y'all pivot. Y'all saw something. It's like, you know what, we can do this. But you got started and then you pivot as you was going through. So
absolutely,
as you pivot because you learned how to pivot. Like you talked about the education, you talked about people and working together, and how you took one property and you to help do another property that is just really awesome. I'm looking at, people say intelligent, interesting, incredible, intelligent, interesting. Like, it's like, mind blowing. So I just want to say thank you for just, showing that. And then, I guess you got an early Christmas present coming too. So congratulations.
Yes, we do.
And the thing with the numbers, Keith, it will have sold this as a traditional, we will have make $150,000. which in this way we make $110,000. So it was $40,000 less at the moment, but we've been able to make $600 a month plus the 115 that is coming. So we were able to wait a little bit longer, but be able to make more money at the end.
Yeah. And once you factor back, so all in all on this one, now this is not counting the cash flow we received while we owned it. We haven't included that. So that aside, just from the seller finance, the net profit from the seller finance is 178,000. Now, the cash received is more than that, but you have to remember we have the 82,000 that needs to come back and be reimbursed from the down payment, which leaves us for a net profit of 178 on the
Which
on
we're
that.
going to receive 260 something like that. I
Yeah,
don't
so
remember.
yeah.
Well,
But
do the
the
maths,
But
82,000 more.
yeah.
but if I could throw this in, the 82,000 that's coming back, you're gonna pay that against your HELOC, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then you can reuse that, allocate that money again.
yeah.
Exactly.
And the good thing
Oh
is
my
that
gosh.
HELOC is paid again. Like the great thing of having a HELOC is that it gets paid and then you can use it again and reuse it to lend money.
Yeah.
So that HELOC that we have, that line of credit with the bank that is backing up by that house that we have renting, that HELOC has provided so much money in
Oh, yeah.
interest to us because we've been able to leverage so many times. We lend the money, use it for flips. So we have grown the money so many times and paid it off and grown it.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just
Yes,
keeps.
yeah. And so, obviously we keep these property tours to an hour because, my mind's really going. I'm going like I'm in the weeds right now. I'm thinking about appreciation, depreciation, tax
Oh,
advantages. I
oh.
mean, you guys could talk about this for hours.
And we're
But
going to
this-
talk really fast about it in the
Okay, but I
Okay.
do want to let everybody know that's on. If you guys, because we do respect everybody's time on the Saturdays, so we wrap this up by the top of the hour. So if
10.
you're on today and you'd like to learn more about our community and about seller financing and about fix and flips and about commercial finance, all the different things that come involved in real estate and our community specifically, which I've been a part of now for 9 years. And I know I would not be where I'm at today without the community. Get back to have invited you because right after today or this meeting, it starts about 5 minutes after the top of the hour. We have like an introduction or overview to our community and the education. And if that doesn't work for you, like I said, get back with invite you because it's a different link and they can get you set up. But if that doesn't work for you, let that person know who brought you out today and say, hey, you need to see this. Just like they did to me. You need to see this, Scott, when I first got started. There's other things that you can plug into. So don't freak out if you're like, oh, right after this, I got to go do something shopping or take the kids. We fully understand. But so there's a lot more that can be discussed. And like I said, I mean, if Ryan and Laura allowed us, we could have them all day. I mean, we could take break for lunch, come back, take break for dinner, and wrap it up by midnight. It's just so much information. And you guys are so great to come out and spend time. But I'm going to let you continue on. I just wanted to mention my mind's going farther down the road here. I see the big numbers, but I'm looking down the road. So go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. And Scott, it's funny that you mentioned a few of the things you just mentioned we're about to cover right now. So,
oh, shoot. Okay.
So we showed with you a deal that we had sold on seller financing. Here's one that we bought on seller financing. And we have done short-term transactions where we've fixed and flipped using seller financing. The examples today are all relating to rental properties. So this property we were able to acquire with what you can see on the screen, $80,000 down, 4.75% APR. That payment was amortized over 34 years for a payment of $2,600 a month with a balloon payment at 10 years. Now, one thing that sometimes confuses people is they see when we say, well, we bought this house, we bought it for $620,000 and the current value or the fair market value of it at the time that we bought it was $595,000. And you'd say, guys, that doesn't sound like a great deal. You overpaid for the house.
Yeah.
I'll say, okay,
maybe not. Maybe not.
And then we say, okay, how much can you rent that house for? The house rents for $2,600 a month, and the mortgage is $2,600 a month.
No gran deal.
Guys, this doesn't sound like a great deal. What are you doing? And so you may be wondering, okay, do these people even know what they're doing? Or they just- and yes, we do. We made some key changes to the property. One of the things, and being an educated investor, is you look at deals that are great deals, but if you don't know what to look for, it will look like there's no deal there at all. And so we closed off around the basement stairway and separated the house into a duplex, added a kitchen in the basement and a parking pad and a laundry. And basically we made it a duplex. As Scott mentioned, there are some different benefits to rental real estate. We've got appreciation, depreciation, equity, and cash flow. And so in Utah, where this property is located, our typical appreciation over the last 10 years has been about 8.9%. And so we said, well, when we bought this, let's calculate that a little more conservatively at 7%. And so with a 7% appreciation over the term of the seller financing, the property will appreciate at $575,000.
At least.
Yeah.
That's
just
really cheap.
as it is. Yeah.
And conservative.
In appreciation. Okay. So starting to look better. Now our depreciation, normally we're going to depreciate that over 27 and a half years, but we can use a strategy called cost segregation where we take 90% of that depreciation basically up front. And so 620 by 90%, there's a little over $500,000 that we can depreciate. And with a marginal tax rate of 35%, we are going to save nearly $200,000 in taxes that we're not going to have to pay because of the cost segregation. So that's a good thing. Starting to look better. Now let's go to the next one. What about equity recapture? Right? There's money that we owe on that loan, and because of the tenants' rent payments are making the mortgage payment for us, they are recapturing equity that we get to keep because that's how it works. And so with our payments that are amortized at 34 years at 4 3/4, every month we're going to be getting a little bit, and we did the math, and over 10 years we're going to recapture $70,000, just over $70,000 thanks to the tenants. So that's good. And then finally, cash flow. Right? Cash flow is simply what comes in monthly from the rent minus all our expenses. That's what hits our pocket, helps us buy groceries and go to the movies with the kids and stuff like that. Increase of rents of 5% per year is going to give us an estimate of $165,000 in cash flow over the next 10 years. So when we take all of these and add them together, appreciation, tax savings, recaptured equity, and cash flow, we're looking over the next 10 years in a projected total net profit of this property bought on seller financing. $100,000 is what we invested. There was $80,000 for the down payment, and then $20,000 in those updates in order to finish out the basement and do the parking pad and all that. Is what we put into it. 100 grand total. That's a 1,000% ROI.
Yeah.
And 36 grand a year into our pocket with a total projection net profit of $1 million. So to go back to my earlier question, do you guys know what you're doing? I think so.
Yeah, Ryan.
We're able to do the duplex, right? Because as a traditional, the whole house, it won't work. It will be cash flowing zero. But doing the duplex, converting it into have two families there paying rent, that's what increases our cash flow.
Yeah. And this is, and
Could
we're not
you
even
go back to that? Could you go back to that first screen of acquisition and fair market value?
Yeah. And we're not even covering here the let's see. This one?
Yes. So I'm like tongue twisted right now. So because I understood everything you said. Now, not everybody on maybe today will understand that, but that comes with time, right? That comes with education. That comes with working with the community and all that. But what most investors will do is they'll look at this like 620, and this is probably right now the way it sits. It's only worth $595. And they haven't peeled any of the layers back. And what I mean by the layers is, what if we put 20 grand into it and we make it a duplex? What if we do, you know what I'm saying? What if we set this up on cost? They don't look at that and it's on.
Oh, Scott, you got quiet.
You got muted
You
there.
are muted, Scott.
I guess people don't want to hear me. That's okay though. So at face value, a lot of investors will look at this and go, they walk away without even looking at the numbers. And Laura, you said it earlier. You don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
And I will personally say, I won't speak for you and Ryan, Laura, but I still don't know what I don't know today. And that's the way it's always going to be. That's why I want to keep learning. That's why I'm learning from you guys today. And even if I wasn't the host of these property tours for 4.5 years, I would want to be on here watching and listening to you guys. Like, I'm already thinking, okay, when's the next time I'm going to be in person with Ryan and Laura? Okay, it's national conference, right? I'll get to see them. I'm going to pick their. No, you see how it goes?
Brain.
I'm going to buy them lunch. You know, I'm going to send their kids birthday cards. You know.
There's some really fun, yeah. I mean, getting started in real estate, there's a lot to learn. It's great to have, the network and the resources, the support, the tools, the education. And man, once everything starts going smoothly, you can do some really fun things.
Yeah, and Scott, remember, we're not using our credit in this house, so we can have 100 houses like this.
Yeah.
Because we're not using our credit,
No
right?
credit check, yeah.
That's the other benefit is we can have many properties in seller finance because that credit is not in our name, so we can buy that way.
And in reality, one thing we didn't mention on that deal was we will most likely do a complete fix and flip on it before we sell it. So we'll gut it and update it. And it's on 1/3 of an acre on a cul-de-sac in a great location. We're gonna the net profit at the end is going to be higher because it's a great location, nice Rambler ranch house. Okay, we're almost out of time. So we'll speak very quickly on this last one. This is one that we are currently we're hoping to close on in the next couple of weeks. Here's a couple of photos inside the property. You can see there.
Super clean.
This is a townhouse that we built, new construction, about a little over a year and a half ago, and we've had it as a rental. And pivoting is very important, something very important to do as an investor. That's why it's so important to be educated, because sometimes you get into a deal and it just doesn't work the way you wanted, and you say, okay, let's do something else. And being able to have the ability to pivot out of something that's not going the way that you necessarily want it to is so crucial, and that's what this example is here. So we bought it for $446. We put 20% down. We had $11,000 in closing costs, and then we finished the basement, and then actually did the similar thing, even though it was a brand new townhouse, where we separated it into a duplex. So there's the upstairs unit and the downstairs unit. So our out-of-pocket costs to build and acquire this property were $132,000, a little more than that. And then the rents, upstairs is a 3-bed, 2-bath, downstairs is a 1-bed, 1-bath, is $2,300 and $1,350. And here's the crunch on this one. When we started building the house, we had our projected numbers based off of interest rates at that time. Our payment was going to be about $2,500, which would have left us with a net cash flow of just over $1,000 on that unit. But because interest rates changed so drastically during the time that the property was being built,
went up for so much.
Our payment was considerably higher. It was just over $3,000, which left our cash flow in half, cut it in half. And so we rented it for a little over a year, and we decided, this is just not a property that we want to continue with. There's a lot of rentals in that area, and we said we want to exit. So we started looking at strategies. And
it wasn't kid, and that's probably where we made the mistake of not knowing what was going to be built in the future, because there was a lot of land around it, and there is an amazing mall. So yeah, what they did, we thought that they were going to continue just building
Single family
single
homes.
family houses. And no, they built a ton of apartments and condos.
Condos, tons of high density housing nearby, which just
That's
really,
why going ahead, what is coming very soon, because within about a year, it's gonna be tons of apartments, and so we're like, okay, in a year, it's coming all this density people, so many people, right? So it's
yeah,
gonna be even more, how is it called? More competition for renting.
yeah.
So we're like, let's get rid of it right now before we get into the trouble of having to compete with our rentals, and the rent is probably coming down because of that,
Yeah.
because of so much competition.
So in being aware and educated and doing market analysis, we see the writing on the wall of what's going to happen a couple years from now. So we are going to exit now while
Yeah.
we can make a great exit. So don't be
Mhm.
overwhelmed by the screenshot. We do use lots of spreadsheets in our line of work, but here you can see what I want you to focus on are the green ones, because
The green
that's,
lines.
yeah, the green lines. So um, if you're a technical person, you'll appreciate all these numbers. But if the important thing is the green, our monthly cash flow, once we sell this, and we already have a buyer lined up. So we're just finishing up replacing the carpet and doing some things, getting it ready to go so we can get it closed.
Mhm.
$1,000 monthly cash flow is what we will be making. So actually, we're going to
Increase.
be doubling what we were making as a rental. And then we're going to receive a 10% down payment. So we'll get 53,000, which is perfect timing because our sixplex in Ogden is going to stop paying us next month. And this one is going to start paying us. So one expired, and now we have a new one that is going to start paying us for the next while. We'll receive those payments. It'll be a 10-year balloon with a 5-year prepayment penalty. So basically, they can't pay off in the first 5 years without paying a big penalty. And so between 5 and 10 years is when they will pay it off. We're hoping that they'll carry it out for 10 years. If so, we'll get a lump sum at the end of another 158,000. And then once we recoup back our 132,000 that we paid out of pocket for the entire project, on top of that, that will leave us with a final net profit on the contract for deed of just over $200,000.
Mhm.
So that's one that we are working on right now.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And obviously, something that you guys have referred to and discussed earlier, because of being a part of this community and embracing and taking the education and constantly learning like I do, and Keith and so many others understand that's what we have to do. I'm sure you looked at all your different strategies. I'm sure, because I had someone just send me a message like says here, they just sent it directly to me. I don't know why. They said, well, why didn't they turn it into a short-term rental? Well, I'm sure you guys looked at that, right? Their heads are going up and down like bobbleheads.
Yeah.
They looked at those numbers. You looked at all the different, and that's why we always talk about don't enter a deal without having multiple exit strategies. And gosh, you guys have lined out so many potential in all your deals. That just lets you pivot, like you said multiple times,
Yep.
easier. Okay. Everybody can pivot, but sometimes it hurts. And if you can pivot where it's like, oh my gosh, this is a great pivot. We're actually going to, 5 years
Make
from now
more.
or 10 years, because what we do as investors, we're not in it as a sprint. This is not like a sprint, like 100-meter sprint here. And we want to finish first over every single person out there. We understand it's a marathon. You guys have 3 beautiful children. You're building a legacy. Wow. I'm sure they see mom and dad, what you guys are doing. And I wouldn't be surprised to see 5, 10 years from now, they're in it. They're in this business as well.
And
So,
also it has to do with your investor ID. We have done short-term rentals and we didn't like it. We don't like it. So it's
okay.
what you like as an investor. And throughout the years, you're gonna change back and forth. Oh, I like this one, I don't like this one. We love rentals. Is one of our favorite strategies. Is what keep us out
It's
of
kind of like Ford and
race.
Chevy. Some people don't like
Get
Ford.
out of the rat race.
So
We don't
the
need Ford.
investor idea, I love that course that we have, Ryan, that you really it really opens your mind up to like, okay, I never thought about investing this way. I never thought, you know what, my investor ID, I thought I was a fix and flip guy. You know what? I'm actually a long-term rental guy. I want to accumulate rental properties and get all the tax advantages and build that monthly income, so I can travel to 15 different countries and so forth. But I know we're at the top of the hour, and Keith is probably going, Scott, you got to wrap this up. You got to wrap this up.
But we got like a couple of questions, just real quick. If
you
you
go
don't
ahead,
mind.
Keith.
All right.
Yes.
So there was a question about just go back to the top, was closing costs. Like, how were you able to get your closing costs down? Now, I know how I keep mine down because I build a good relationship with my title company, and that's what we learned how to do. But if you don't want to share, because they was like, is it different in different countries or different states?
I'm guessing that question relates to the townhouse when we bought the townhouse. The majority of the closing costs on that were loan fees for our traditional mortgage that we acquired in order to build the property. And so it's different on every transaction. But to answer your question, yes, having we have great relationships with different title companies. And we have cell phone numbers of the escrow agents. We have called and texted them Sunday nights because we need things and they answer our calls. So every business is a relationship business. It's so important to build a strong team of people where you have win-wins in everything that you do, and they will be loyal to you just like you're loyal to them.
Awesome. Thank you. So there's a lot of comments in there. I know people waited to the last minute to try to ask a lot of questions, but we're getting close to the hour. But I do want to say thank y'all for sharing, because you hit at different levels of investors, from beginning investors who are here today, and even some seasonal investors who want to most likely, you know what? I'm going to take my game to the next level as they prepare for next year. So thank you for being in here. And one of the things I want to make sure everybody understand is not just learning. What y'all demonstrated was you learn and then you do. You was doing what you was learning. So it wasn't like, let me just read a book. Oh, that was great. Or put it on the shelf. Or I learned this and then I just put it on the shelf. So thank you for showing us that it takes action to do anything that you wanted to do. And then I just want to a lot of people talk about multiple streams of income. What y'all also showed was you also have multiple streams of income, but it was still in real estate. Other people think you got to go do this and you got to do that, and it's not even related. But as you had learned and you demonstrated that how you was able to maneuver, which we use the word pivot, throughout this whole thing. And so I just want to say thank you, because you talked about leveraging. It was just so much information. I agree with Scott. Man, we can be here forever, but we can't. And I just want to say thank you for being here. It was just really awesome, and I'll be really excited to see y'all at Nationals again. And I want to say Merry Christmas, Scott. I'm gonna turn it over to you so we can close out.
Yeah, real quick. Either Ryan or Laura, either one of you guys take this last thing. So for folks that are on today who trying to figure out this whole real estate investing business, or maybe they've already done a deal or two, but they're like, they want to be a part of the community. They want to take their business to the next level. Okay. What would you leave, or how would you like to leave everybody today?
Well, it really, guys, this education, this community has transformed our lives forever. And not only our lives, but our kids and generational lives. So work for yourself, really. Don't work for others, because when you work for others, you're building the dream of other people, right? Even if you need to still have a job, keep it. Work for your job that you need to keep pay your bills, but build your business in the side. And real estate, really, there is no losing this when you are educated, when you know what to do, and when you have a team of community helping and supporting each other. So keep investigating, go to your local communities, thank the person that invited you to this meeting, because really that person loves you, that person cares about you, that person wants to help you. And this has been amazing for so many people around the country. We have heard stories over stories over stories of people changing their lives because of the education and the community that we have. So we love it. We are eternally grateful with Bob Snyder for creating this amazing community. And we're grateful with each one of you that help and support, and with you, Scott, like what you do every week doing these house tours. But also we have locals tours on locals. The local community have tours that are in each different cities and states. So ask the person that invited you where they guided you, where you can go from now on, and how you can get involved with our community.
Continue learning.
Yeah.
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 Well,
It's
thank you
amazing.
guys.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas to you guys. Merry Christmas to everybody on. Please spend time with your loved ones, your family, your friends. And we just appreciate the heck out of you guys. I cannot wait to see you guys. I'm already starting to write questions down that I'll be asking. No, I'm just kidding you. All right. You guys have a great weekend.
Thank you too. Take care.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Bye-bye, guys.